Here.
Commissioner Nicely,
Here.
Commissioner Mass.
Here.
Commissioner Zender. Commissioner Hezegon.
Here. Okay. All right, we have opening prayer, and we have Pastor Duke Ford from Crossroads Baptist Church come up and open the meeting in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you first and foremost for giving us another day. Lord, we thank you for your blessings of the past, but yet, dear God, we need your blessings again today. We thank you, dear Lord, that your mercies are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Oh Lord, we live in an amazing country. We thank you for the United States of America. We thank you for our great state of Michigan and our Lapeer County. And Lord, I pray that you would bless this committee as they meet today. Lord, that everything would be done decently and in order. Lord, I ask that you would help each one of these commissioners to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before you, our God. We pray specifically this morning for the Sims family. We pray for Cheryl this morning as she's grieving the loss of her husband. And Lord, I pray that you would bring grace into that tragedy, into that heartache today. As we lift her up to you, Lord, I pray that your face would shine upon her and give her peace today. Lord, I ask that today in this session, that truth would be lifted up, that manipulation and deceit is all left outside of the door. Lord, that that your will and the better good of the people would be represented by all that's said and done here today. We thank you for our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and for the assurance of heaven because of him. We pray these things in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make sure they took this on.
All right. I'm looking for motion to approve the agenda. Is there any amendments to the agenda?
Chairman, I'd like to make a minute to the agenda, item number 5. I wasn't here last week, or for the last meeting, the whole meeting, to add the discussion on the Homeland Security grant.
Support.
Okay, so that's going to be under additional item number 5.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as
I'll
amended?
move to approve the agenda as amended.
Take it on support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I need a motion to accept the June 22nd, 2023 regular board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 22nd, 2023 regular board meeting minutes.
Take it on support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. All right. We have a presentation to the County of Lapeer by Colonial Ken Reef, accompanied by Colonial J. Edson and Miss Leslie McCormick. Hope I got all those names correct.
Good morning, guys. So we have 3 Air Force veterans with us today. 2 retired colonels and 1 retired major. And this is all about the General Squire getting put in to the Hall of Fame. So they would like to speak.
Yeah, just a few words, and I'll open it for questions if anybody has. So we are representing the Air Force cyberspace,
and Air Traffic Control Association. We nominated General Squire to the Air Force Hall of Fame. The prelude to that is to induct General Squire into our Hall of Honor. And in that process, okay, it was decided by the Air Force to offer his eagle to the county of Lapeer for display as you so see fit. And with that, a little bit more about why we're here. Most of you know General Squire's history here, so I won't belabor you with all of the things that we've either written or have said in the last 48 hours. I do want to say that we were honorably honored here by your folks in the county. We got a trip out to the park, which is amazing. To imagine a young man with humble upbringings, reaching the pinnacle of success, donating back to his community. And that's really what it's all about for all of us. So having said that, I'd like to present the eagle. I'm giving it to you, right?
Is Commissioner, yeah, top right. No, true.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I've done this a few times. On behalf of Lieutenant General Harry Radeke, who is the chairman of our board, I wish to present this eagle to the county of Lapeer in honor of Major General George Owen Square, as he pronounced it.
Appreciate it. We'll put this right front and center here for everyone to see. See the chairman's gone.
You guys come much better looking than our chair.
Yeah.
So these are just the token from the sheriff's office.
Oh, thank you very much.
So
We advised the lieutenant we didn't bring weapons with us.
we're okay.
There is a funny story there. When we first started this process, it seemed that everybody thought I was a scammer. And so we had to go to great extent to clear our name. So,
Who is this guy? What does he want?
What's he want? I'm bringing gifts.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank all you gentlemen for your service to our country. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Is there any further questions for Colonial from anyone? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's an honor. All right, that brings us to the folder for commission mileage expense sheets. Training registration, overnight travel requests. Those are going around, I guess. If anybody has any questions on those, please let us know. Okay, all right. That brings us to the first public time. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak this morning? There's a 3-minute time limit. Anybody from the public can come up and speak on whatever issues they would like.
Who do I give this to?
Sure.
Thank you. So the topic I have today is not one that makes me popular. It makes people angry, actually, because people absolutely love their off-road vehicles. And I get that. They are fun. They are a great tool. But the reason that once a year I take the day off work and come and speak to you all is that off-road vehicles are not meant for roads. They are meant solely for off-road use. As you can see in your packets there. So Lapeer County has an ordinance that allows these vehicles on certain roads, and then the state of Michigan for a while was titling some vehicles, some off-road vehicles, with license plates for use on roads. But I can tell you that in my opinion, all of these laws are unethical. And they're unethical because the manufacturers of these vehicles say that they should never be on public roads, never be used. They often have warning labels right in the vehicles saying they should never be used on public roads. And They are simply dangerous when used on public roads. That is why these manufacturers of these vehicles like Polaris, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Can-Am join in lobbying groups to say these vehicles should be banned. Ban our products from your roads. But to me, the crux of this, especially in our county from what I observed, is children riding in these vehicles. Most of these vehicles have warning labels in them, again, that say don't use on roads, don't drive on pavement, but don't allow children to be in these vehicles. The restraints in these vehicles are not meant to keep children safe. And yet we've got people flying down the road doing 40, 50, sometimes higher against the ordinance, but with little children in the back, with no helmets, open vehicles. It's just incredibly dangerous. When on the same roads, at the same speeds, I would be cited and perhaps worse if I did not have children properly restrained in child safety seats. And the other thing is that there's just a lack of education in our county about these vehicles and the state laws, which I've included in there for you. A lot of folks, even law enforcement, tends to confuse golf carts with ORVs. And so golf carts are out on all kinds of roads where they're actually not allowed by state law. I see it on an almost daily basis where I live in Metamora. And it is incredibly dangerous for all of us drivers on the road. And you'll note that multiple governing bodies have said that 1 in 3 of the accidents that happen with ORVs involve another vehicle. So I am terrified of ever hitting one of the 7-year-olds that I see on dirt bikes in Metamora where I live. I am terrified of running into people on a golf cart as I come over a hill. It's almost happened a whole bunch of times. So I really encourage you to have a public education campaign. Include law enforcement in this. Make sure they are very clear on these laws as well. And again, these vehicles don't have any of the safety features that our on-road cars have. They don't have airbags. They don't have anti-lock brakes. They don't have a soft body to cushion. And so as you look at some of the accidents in there, and I encourage you to look at more, but people die at a much higher rate when in an accident with these vehicles. Is that my time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's another public time if you would like to follow up later.
Thank you. Well, I included everything in my statement, so.
Thank you. Does anybody else from the public would like to comment this morning?
Carol in Marathon Township, very timely that this lady has spoken. We were just north of our house in Marathon Township. Stopped at a stop sign, country roads. We were kind of at the bottom of a hill, and 4 of these vehicles come down the road, go around us. You just can't see. And they look at us like, we know we shouldn't be on these, all adults, some children, whatever. But before that, there were 2 young guys, like I'm talking children guys, maybe 12, 14, maybe younger, on motorcycles in front of them on these country roads. It's like, whatever I can get away with, maybe I can take that next step to get away with the next thing. I'm with her. I do not want to be the person. I mean, we have trucks, and everybody thinks they can slap that farm triangle on the back of their vehicle. It's a farm vehicle. Now I can be on this road. There's not that many farmers out there. Village of Columbiaville. I mean, you're driving down the street and there are golf carts. It feels like back in the day when we were little kids and we would get in those cars and they would teach us how to drive through those little streets. You guys probably don't remember that auto something, but that's what it feels like. I mean, these little golf carts are everywhere. And I don't get it. I don't know why it's being allowed, but it's scary. We don't want deaths. We don't want injuries for people. So I really hope that you will, and I know you will. I was wondering, on 6/20, there was an MTA Michigan Township Association meeting. I believe it was in Marathon. And I just wondered if that was like a state Michigan Township Association, or was that just all the township supervisors in Lapeer County, and what that's like all about, like what is discussed. And then also I know Gary Roy, again, I'm going to reiterate this. Gary Roy used to always say at the end of the meeting how much was spent of the taxpayers' money for this month or this 2 weeks or whatever. And I really think that would be a good practice. so that the taxpayers of this county know exactly how much money is going through. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to comment?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Mark Marshall, representing Thumb Communications. I am here on behalf of the camera bid that I know is coming to the board for approval. Between myself and my co-business partner, Chuck Bush from Thumb Alarm and Mayfield Tavern, and many other businesses, we employ over 50 people. Most of our employees are right here based out of Lapeer County. And I just want to go a couple of things that, as I seen in the bid that's coming forth, we were approximately, I'm just going to use rough numbers, we were approximately $20,000 cheaper than the other, which the bid is coming forth. So all I'm asking is for the Board of Commissioners to look at this, as I am a tax-paying business right here in Lapeer County, along with most of our employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak this morning? All right, seeing no one, we will close the first public time and we'll go on to the draft motions, new and old business. First up is the committee of the whole.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you want to rewind and go back to department heads?
Oh, did I miss? I'm sorry. I don't see it on here. It's not on here, but yes, we can certainly
I'm
do
so
that.
sorry.
We can go back, we'll go back just before public time and do the, we're not gonna open up another first public time though, but we'll do department. Is there any department heads this morning that would like to give us an update? Okay, very good. Moving on then.
I tried y'all.
All right, back to draft motions from the July 13th committee of the whole. There's a bunch of them.
So on page one,
Mhm.
I will move 1 through 5.
One through 5 has been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those pass. So now we're at motion number 6.
On page 2, I will move motions 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those motions pass. That brings us down to number 11. Is there a motion to approve number 11?
I'll move motion 11.
I'll support it.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion?
One thing, I do believe that the new packets that the public has does not have this information in it, correct? That we're just printing the agendas. If you want to have access and read this, I would suggest you go to the county website and you'll be able to obtain all this stuff there, so I apologize for that. Normally, we would read through it, there's a lot of information on here, so you might want to, circle back to the website to get more information on what is in these 11 draft motions.
That were all discussed at our committee of the whole
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, so
And
it's
I
on
want
YouTube as well.
Yes, I do too.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing no more, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion's passed. All right, now it's personnel committee meeting motions. Mr. Commissioner Hagedorn, would you like to?
Yes. So personnel, we actually have three motions from two different personnel meetings. The first one, and I'll move these together and I will talk about them. From July 13th, there was a motion that carried unanimously to authorize the community mental health to reclassify the human resource manager position as the BA supervisor position, pay grade 21, consistent with the other BA supervisor positions throughout the county, be paid from the CMH's budget at no cost to the county's general fund. And then the other one is we carried unanimously to authorize community mental health to amend their table of organization by eliminating one regular part-time professional BA position and add one full-time certified peer support specialist in order to better meet program needs to be paid from CMH's budget and at no cost to the county's general fund. So I'll move those two.
Okay, motions number 1 and 2 have been moved. Is there any support?
I'll support.
Okay, it's been supported by Nisley. Commissioner Nisley, is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
All right.
motion passes. Number
This
3.
morning, we had a very robust conversation with our prosecuting attorney, and I will give him some credit. We gave him the tools, really, the taxpayers gave him the tools through the law enforcement village to go out there and recruit and find the best assistant prosecutors we can get. And very exciting that he has one potential person that is all the way from New Mexico. So I will move pursuant to the recommendation of the Personnel Committee to authorize the prosecuting attorney to negotiate the rate of pay for the vacant Assistant Prosecuting Attorney 2 position up to step 1 due to the candidate's extensive legal experience and knowledge at no additional cost to the county's general fund.
Okay,
I'll support.
it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion on
Just
this?
to follow up to Commissioner Hagedorn's comments, I was in that committee this morning as well, and this is exactly what we've been trying to do. As you know, we unanimously approved the increases in compensation for assistant prosecutors. If we're going to go after the criminals in this county, we got to have competent people prosecuting those crimes. And this gentleman, I haven't met him yet, but on paper he sounds very encouraging. He's the chief assistant in a larger area in New Mexico, a lot of extensive experience, and we need people like that. So I'm really pleased that he's going to come on board.
And just as a point of, maybe it's too personal, so I will not share it yet until knock on wood this person is hired, so.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I will say also, it's nice to know that he grew up here in Michigan. He went to school here in Michigan. He wants to come back home. So that's nice to know too. So hopefully he'll find a home and stick around here for a while, yes. So any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Properties Committee.
This morning we had our Properties Committee meeting here. There's one item on there pursuant to the recommendation of the Properties Committee.
You gotta go, I'm sorry.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I
Yes.
got started here too. I'm sorry. Is that in our packet? or is
Yes.
that-
Yes, it
I
is.
thought I seen it in there.
Right past the personnel.
So we have a board approval of the construction of 264 Cedar Street for the community mental health house, the ACT program at a cost of $50,000 to be paid for by CMH funding at no additional cost to county's general fund. That's item number 1. And that's from the June 22nd meeting of Properties Committee. And then we have a motion that we approve, board approved CMH receive architectural designs at a cost not to exceed $5,000 be paid for for CMH at no additional cost to the county's general fund. That's item number 2. Item number 3 is to recommend to the full board to approve Trudewski. Well, this is something that we need to discuss because the recommendation was to approve the name of the golf disc park to Twisted Greens, Trudewski Twisted Greens. And now we're just going to recommend that name, due to some
Unforeseen.
unforeseen controversies that are associated with that name, that we name it Trudewski Disc
Golf Course. Is that correct, John?
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's item number 3. And then the fourth item, which is as a result of the meeting we had this morning for community mental health, received a recommendation by Properties Committee to authorize CMH to have the following projects completed by Buildings and Ground for a total of $66,700. They include some improvements and some such as replacing drinking fountains, replace carpet in certain areas, parking lot repair, seal and striping, sidewalk leveling, and concrete replacement on sidewalks. For a grand total of $67,700 to be paid for by CMH's current fiscal year 2023 budget, and to authorize reimbursement directly back to Buildings and Grounds.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported for motions number 1, 2, 3, and the new addition this morning. Is there any further discussion on these?
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right. Brings us to our audit motions.
I'll move to enter into the records the county's audit motions for May 23rd, 2023, June 2nd, 2023, June 30th, 2023, July 14th, 2023, and the road commission audit motion for disbursements dated June 1st, 2023, June 29th, 2023, and July 13th, 2023.
Hamilton support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to enter into the record. Is there any discussion on these? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Need a roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Hagadon,
Yes.
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Nicely,
Yes.
Commissioner Mass.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for keeping us straight up here. Okay, item number 2, notice of appointment, Emergency Management Advisory Council. I think we do have one here. Okay, applicant. Mackenzie Thrower.
We have one application, now we have a position, we want to make that appointment.
Bill, did you have a?
It's a replacement for a vacant spot.
It's filling a vacancy. Okay, and I'll move that we name Mackenzie Thrower to the committee.
Okay, it's moved and supported. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Mackenzie Thrower.
Second.
Commissioner Nicely.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reason we're recommending a non-Lapeer resident for this?
Address that if you want. Mackenzie is filling a vacancy from the hospital. He's the McLaren Healthcare Preparedness Coordinator, I believe is his term, his title at the hospital. He's replacing Kelly Kavner. She resigned from her position at the hospital. So he is taking that as a part-time position. He's currently a full-time sheriff's deputy and paramedic for Genesee County. So that's an appointment that a required position on our EMAC is the healthcare preparedness from the hospital. So he's the person in that position. So generally we just reappoint them into that role. So that's why he's not a resident of the county in that role.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. It passes. So brings us to number 3, administration and sheriff department. Bid recommendation regarding the cabling project at the sheriff's department / jail.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table this bid for the cabling project into the next committee of the whole meeting with authority to act. Due to the fact I wasn't here last week, I wasn't able to see this until just after I got back from vacation. We also have our chairman is absent today. Brian's the chair, Commissioner Zender is also absent today. So I think we need a little more time to talk about some of the things that concerns that we have, that I have amongst everybody here before we make a decision on this.
I'll support.
All right, it's been moved and supported to table.
Could we use the word refer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Refer. Okay, been moved and supported to refer item number 3 to the committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion?
With authority to act.
Yes, authority. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of doing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 4, committee recommendations for towing contracts.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also ask that we refer this decision to the next committee of the whole meeting due to some issues that I think we need to discuss due to my absence and the absence of our chairman and Commissioner Zender today until the next committee of the whole meeting with authority to act.
I would support that because I do think Zender needs to be here for that conversation. He is in that industry. He knows it, and I do agree. I think he needs to be here. So, hanging on support.
So there's a motion and support to
Refer.
Thank you. Refer item number 4 to the next committee of the whole. Is there, with authority to act.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this? Are there any opposed? Or I'm sorry, we gotta vote on it. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. Now on to additional items. Item number 5, the discussion on Homeland Security Grant.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we put the Homeland Security Grant on the committee of the whole agenda with authority to act in the committee of the whole meeting in August.
And I will support that.
Okay, it's been moved and supported to revisit the discussion on the Homeland Security Grant at the next committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion on that?
I think it's a wise decision because when we did it last month, we only had 6 of our 7 commissioners here. We only got 5 today. And I think this is a complicated enough issue that it makes sense to have a full discussion with all commissioners present.
A little bit I know about it too. I was not here, but I did read some disturbing language in the resolution that I wasn't very comfortable with. But I do believe that the resolution and the purpose of the funding for this resolution and this grant is for one specific item for emergency scene lighting, I guess is what it's called technically. And that if that's what the money's being used for without any other attachments, mandates, or whatever that would come along with these things, according to the Homeland Security resolution that has a lot of things in there that I didn't like. But I just think it's better that we take another look at it and revisit it at the next committee of the whole meeting. So that's my reason for it.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that the more we can discuss any issue, and I don't care if it's towing bids, a Homeland Security grant, the sheriff's request for cameras, the cabling project. I think anytime we can have more discussion on it and get a feel of where things are at, I think that's a positive, not only for this board, but for this county, so.
Agreed. Any further discussion? I will bring up one thing on this issue is it doesn't seem quite fair that something that has as much attached to this, or for as far as reading material, that we get it on Tuesday night at 5 or 6 o'clock, and we're expected to vote on it Thursday morning. I mean, I spent over an hour on Wednesday morning reading through that, and I didn't get through it all. And then we're supposed to vote on it Thursday morning, so it would really be nice to have things like this that have so much attached to it, have a little bit more time to research and dig into it and get a better understanding of it. So I am full support of revisiting this next time. So,
This happened a few times in the past, and I'm on vacation. I tried to read it on my phone, which is very difficult. It's a long read, a lot of information.
And and I know you and you are not bashing our administration. Our
No,
administration works our butt off. I mean,
Yep.
you look at, they threw 2 committee meetings in less than 48 hours together today. One was expected, one was not expected, and it was conveyed to the department heads, hey, this stuff is not gonna happen again. And that's why we went to every other week meetings, and so they're swamped. They're not just sitting up in the administration with their thumbs in their mouth. They work hard every day. So I do agree, but I also want the public to know our administration works very hard. Yeah,
I wasn't saying that again.
no, I know, I'm just for the sake of putting it out there, that's all.
Just so sometimes, their hard work kind of ends up resulting in some of these short notices, and, that's not their fault, but it also, we have fiduciary obligation to have enough time to vet these things out better, so. So that's why we're doing some of these things here. So, nothing against them at all, they're doing a great job. I agree.
I'm sure sometimes administration doesn't get this stuff until last minute too.
That's true too.
I see you smiling back there, Doreen.
Okay, I think that's been discussed pretty well. Any further discussion? We didn't vote on this one yet, did we?
No, sir.
No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes. Okay, that brings us down to the ad hoc committee updates, if needed. Is there any ad hoc committee updates that are needed?
We haven't had an ad hoc meeting of our legal counsel subcommittee, but we're making great progress. Moses and his staff have got the RFPs out for civil counsel. What's the deadline date on that at this point?
So we moved the deadline date to September 30th.
September 30th?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So we'll have that way we'll have ample time for any firms interested to get the information to us. We're sure we got the greatest possible selection. Anyway, we're making progress.
Yeah.
The RFP is in good position. I'm pleased with where we are in that right now.
Very good. Thank you. Any other ad hoc committee updates?
It's not an ad hoc committee update, but I'd like to give an update on public safety. Public Safety Committee met on the 18th. This is a committee that hasn't met since 2003, according to the records. Some of the things we discussed was illegal marijuana growing in the county. Right now, an illegal marijuana grow is a civil infraction. That's because of the statewide marijuana proposal that passed a few years ago. So there's a lot of limitations in that law as far as the number of marijuana plants you can have, things like that. And it's being broken in many places in this county, but the law doesn't have any teeth in it. So we discussed some strategies of possibly pursuing it from other angles. The county right now gets approximately $374,000 out of the excise taxes on marijuana. So we also discussed possibly putting together a special task force or some resources dedicated to going after this issue. It's a nuisance. It attracts crime. So we're looking at ways of how we can combat that within the rules that we have. Another issue that came up was there was a big to-do over in Davison regarding transients being dropped off at the Meyer over there. It was determined that this has nothing to do with the illegal alien issue in the Biden administration. These are ticket buying passengers. For some reason, Greyhound, which is the carrier, doesn't have a dedicated bus stop in the area, so they're just dropping them wherever they can. And there were some concerns on that, but just letting you know that that has nothing to do with the you hear about the illegal aliens being shipped all over the country. This was nothing to do with that.
Okay. Any other ad hoc committee updates?
I don't have an update, just a comment on Commissioner Hamilton. I appreciate him having this committee be proactive on this marijuana situation. It's been under the radar to a large degree, and I appreciate him bringing it forth. We had a good follow-up discussion this morning with the county prosecutor in the personnel committee. I'm pleased to see the county honing in on this, because there's some really bad actors out there that are detrimental to our community with these major drug operations. So anyway, thanks for
And
bringing it forward.
if I could piggyback on that, because we did have a very good conversation. That public safety committee meeting, the prosecuting attorney did give a shout out to you for putting it together, because as you stated, and Doreen, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the first public safety committee meeting in 20 years. 20 years. And I know the prosecuting attorney this morning commented on having another one. I'm sure you plan on having another one. I don't know for members of this board or the general public or those watching on YouTube, but there is a sheriff's app where you can go on and you can see the inmates in the jail and what they're in there for. And a lot of them are in there for drugs and alcohol. And I did bring up this morning in personnel to the prosecuting attorney that I would like us to start looking at how we as maybe a commission can team with the sheriff's office and the prosecuting attorney's office to tackle the drug problem in Lapeer. I'll be the first to admit, shame on me. I didn't realize it was as bad as it is. I'm not around that stuff, so I don't see it, but it is very unfortunate, and some of the things are very heartbreaking. And if we can be leaders on this issue, I'd love for us to be leaders on this issue. So thank you, Bill, for getting the ball rolling.
I'll follow up on that and say thanks, Bill, for doing the same. It was suggested to me by one of the township supervisors that maybe we confer with the Genesee County Sheriff up there. They seem to have found a solution to dealing with some of the illegal grow operations in Tuscola County. And it might be a good idea for our sheriff and our prosecutor maybe reach out to them and see what they're doing that might assist us down here, because it is a problem. Being a civil infraction, the state of Michigan has done us no favors in dealing with this problem. And I think that's intentional, but that's my opinion. So I do think that we have some work to do, and it is a problem. You know, CSC is the number one problem. Alcohol and drugs are the other problem. There are huge problems in Lapeer County, and we take it with a grain of salt. But you know, I know, you know, the prosecutor is inundated with these in his on his docket, particularly CSC.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any further, or any more updates?
An update for the broadband committee. Monday, we had a video call with the state broadband office on some of the reasons we did not receive the first round of grants for the broadband that we applied for. A big part of it was not having existing infrastructure in place. That would be centered around the middle mile project that I've been pushing for. There are other factors in there. Our application, we didn't have letters of intent from providers that would be willing to use the middle mile if we built it and build out and provide service to customers. We were also, when we applied, still going through the broadband survey, so our didn't have enough data to back up refuting the FCC maps on coverage in our county. According to FCC, we have great coverage in the county, and we know that that's wrong. So at the time of the application, we didn't have enough data to dispute that. That was another factor. Also, in our application, we didn't outline how many children would be served by veterans, number of households that could potentially be impacted and improved upon. So it's just what I got out of this was, if we're gonna be serious about expanding internet access in this county for everybody, we need to seriously look at building the middle mile project. We did have a meeting on on Thursday, our company that the previous board hired to do the engineering for this project, when they came back to us, built out, not the middle mile, but they built out a engineering project to provide a fiber connection to every single home and business in the county, which was not the intention or asked for. So we've asked them to go back and give us the engineering estimates and information for the middle mile project, which is what we intended for. There were some notes in the file, estimates anywhere from 10 million to 35 million. So we're asking them to lock that down so we have a path forward, whether it's feasible or not. The full project of the county providing a connection to every house was $150 million, which is a non-starter in this county. That's just not gonna happen. So I believe we need to have the middle mile project done to provide a main highway through the county to where we can then partner with ISPs to branch off that and build out to homes on their own. So.
Thank you.
I'll follow up on that too, being on the ad hoc committee with Bill, he's, the information we've gotten from Merit and Entry Point, has been dilatory, I think, and there was a disconnect, I guess, Bill said, with, what we wanted them to do. And the $150 million deal, that wouldn't fly in any county, I don't think, but, not definitely not in Lapeer. The BEAD grant is the next grant. We were also advised that we were likely not to qualify for the BEAD grant. Where the $35 million came from Quinton back in the old administration, we're not really sure what that included and where those numbers came from, because some of the numbers we're getting now maybe make sense that we could do the middle mile if it's something around $10 million, because we set that money aside in our ARPA. If some of it's in construction, has already been allocated $3 million, I believe, and we have a balance of about $12 million in our ARPA fund. So we do have the money to do that, provided that, it doesn't cost us any more. We got to make sure that we can pay for this. We're not going to buy something we can't pay for. That's not a very fiduciary, wise thing to do. So we're still working on that. So we've given a redirection to Merit and Entry Point to kind of redo the scope of their work, to kind of concentrate on just the middle mile, and in cooperation with ISD to try to find a way that we can get the middle mile done. And if it does make sense financially and overall, then we can move ahead with it. But it doesn't look like we're gonna get any grant money. So I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other updates? No? Okay, fiscal planning and budgeting discussion, if needed. Is there any discussion on fiscal planning? Okay,
Nope, we're on schedule.
all right. Brings us to the audit motions.
Yes, that is correct. They're for this week.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah, this sheet here is for checks dated tomorrow.
all right.
So I will move the audit motions.
I will support it.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hagedorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Nisey,
Yes.
Commissioner Mast,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Howell.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, brings us to our second public time. Anybody from the public would like to speak? We did both.
Yeah,
We did
I
both.
moved
Okay,
them
never
both,
mind.
yeah.
Okay.
If I'm allowed a second, I took the time to come here, I might as well use it. So I just want to talk a little bit more about the ORVs, because I don't expect today that you would repeal the ordinance. It would make you incredibly unpopular with your constituents, and they are vocal, and believe me, I've had at least 2 years of harassment now, so I get it. But my goal today was to get you to think, as accidents happen around this county and around the state and around the country, and you hear about all these tip and roll accidents, from especially side by side, because they have a short turning radius, they have a high center of gravity, they have off-road tires. And the deaths, how many deaths will it take for you to say, to have the moral courage to say, we need to repeal this law? It is unethical because the manufacturers say, don't do this with our vehicles. So how many? Just, put that in your mind. And so you have some options here. And I also want to point out that when we see these vehicles doing things like greatly exceeding the speed limit, having little kids unsecured in them, they don't have license plates. The majority of these vehicles don't have license plates. And so when I call dispatch and say, hey, I'm seeing people put kids in danger, they're like, well, what color is the side-by-side? You have no shot of giving them a license plate number because there is no license plate. And, I've had a police chief in my area said, well, they have trail stickers. Try to read a trail sticker. You can sometimes read the number that's on the trail sticker, the year of the trail sticker. But again, most of the side-by-sides and off-road vehicles I see in our county on the roads don't even have the trail stickers as they are supposed to by law. If you have any questions about these laws, DNR law enforcement, they are the experts and they are just superb at answering those questions. They can also, if you have folks in your area who are breaking these laws regularly, driving through wetlands, driving through private property where they don't have permission to be, doing dangerous things on the road, you can call DNR law enforcement and let them know, hey, this is happening. Sometimes there's a DNR vehicle in our area because they usually have one on duty for the county at least, and they can come by and sometimes see and take care of it. But again, if you have questions about it, please do call them. And I also want to just emphasize what somebody else brought up. This is a rural county, and we still have a lot of agriculture here, and these side-by-sides, particularly in the dirt bikes, can cause a lot of disruption to agriculture. Not only from people driving through fields where they don't have permission to be, but animals. And even, my mom, like a month ago, was driving up to get hay from North Branch, and she encountered 50 side-by-sides. And this was like in the middle of the day. I don't know how these people had time to do it, but 50 side-by-sides in a row. And she had to wait for this long line of side-by-sides to go by. She said the noise was just incredible. And I've seen on social media posts people saying, let's get 100 of them together and ride around horse country. What do you think that does to the health of the horses and the riders who are on their trails? And sometimes there's been a huge phenomenon of something called outlaw trails, and this is going on across the country. But in particular in Metamora, people driving down trails where they shouldn't be. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to address the board during the second public time?
Oh, there's so much I could talk about, but I'm gonna narrow it down to Dave Clafer from Oregon Township. I want to commend the commission for postponing the Homeland Security grant because I am a part of Homeland Security, being in the Coast Guard, retired, and I've seen some of the stuff that's coming out these days on these grants with all these little things tied in for some of the ideas of special groups and identities. We need to make sure in that grant that you sign, oh yeah, it sounds good, here's all this money we'll give you, but you have to adhere to these special and very special to these special interest groups, ideas of reporting back to show that we have adhered to these special groups. And our administration in the federal level is getting some bad information, I personally feel. And I think as a commission, please very closely read some of the details of that grant, or any grants for that matter, because they want you to report on all kinds of stuff, from child stuff to sexual stuff. We have to be careful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to address the board?
Carolyn, Marathon Township. I'd also like to thank you guys for the questions that you asked and for digging a little deeper in all of the different areas. Again, the off-road vehicles, it's honestly, it's very, like, again, we drive trucks and it's just not safe. I'd like to thank you, Bill, and whoever else is the Public Safety Committee. Thank you so much for that because, as you know, and I know that Tom Coleman, your chair in Marathon Township, there are a number in Deerfield and a number of these homes that are not occupied. And one is we have a couple in our neighborhood, and vehicles go in all times of the day, on the weekends. You know, yesterday we'd come out our back door and we could smell very strong. I mean, we're a farm and we're pretty far away from everybody with very strong smell of marijuana. And the vehicles there are vehicles that don't know the address. They go by it, they turn around in our driveway and then go back to that house. What are they doing? You know, this house is in like a little wooded area. We don't know if there's human trafficking. We have no idea what's going in and out of there with vans. And law enforcement knows that Marathon Township has talked about it. So I thank you, and I know that, I know you can't answer, but Thumb Narcotics Group or whatever, I know they have been working on things too, and I so look forward to making our neighborhood safer. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public want to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we will close the second public time. And that brings us to our commissioner reports. I think we will start with Mr. Hamilton today. We'll go the other way around. Switch it up.
I don't really have much of anything else other than, you know, the broadband and the public safety committee. I will say this about the Homeland Security grant. I voted no on that in committee because of the short notice in which we got it. And there's about 2.5 pages in there of nothing but references to other federal laws and acts and titles that we have to comply with in that grant, just for some money for some lights that we can figure out how to pay for out of a different budget. There's just a lot of strings attached to that. I'm not against getting lights for the fire departments, but there's a lot of questions and unknowns in that federal grant that we got to be careful what we're signing up for.
Okay. Well, I first of all would like to thank everybody for coming out this morning that came out, and those that spoke. Thank you for that. Appreciate it very much. I want to thank the Colonial, Ken, Reef, and you others for the awesome presentation this morning on General Squire Park. Thanks to the grounds and maintenance department for helping out with that. Really appreciate that. It's an honor, and we're fortunate to have that park in our county. So, and yeah, I guess I'm glad to.
May I address that just a second?
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to say one other thing.
Sure.
Our organization is willing to sponsor one person from Lapeer County to come to Washington when General Square is inducted and accept his eagle.
Wow.
And we will let you know when that happens.
Very good. That's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Also, just a reminder, it's in the paper. Probably everybody already knows about it. But again, there's a hazardous waste dump at the fairgrounds over in English City on August 15th, I believe it is. You can sign up on the county website if you have any waste you want to get rid of that you can't get rid of through your normal garbage. You can take it to the fairgrounds and dispose of it there. So really don't have any other updates that I can think of right now that are of urgency or importance. So, again, thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you again for coming today. We really appreciate this, and again, we definitely appreciate and honor your service to our country. I said it again. The Homeland Security grants, if I don't believe that what the fire department is asking for, there's any mandates attached to that. If that's indeed the case, then I have no problem at all supporting this 100%. But I do have problems when the federal government gets involved and starts throwing mandates in on all these issues that we read about every day. You know, they're buying our votes, they're buying our compliance, and they're buying our our willingness to give up our freedoms and liberties. And I have a big problem with that. So I will read every one of those grants, and I will read everything that comes across when they try to pass money along to us and expect us to do something in return. I have a big problem with that. As far as the ORVs, I had a constituent call me last week about ORVs on Hunt Road and golf carts. And golf carts are really not allowed on the roads at all. There's one condition where a golf cart can actually be used on the road, and that's if it has a windshield wipers, turn signals, and brake lights and seatbelts. That's what I was told by Township Supervisor in Elba Township, Mike BOC, and also from a couple of our sheriff's deputies I'm friends with, who briefed me on those. As far as the other ORVs, I know they fly by my house all the time. They are limited to 25 miles an hour, and they have to stay on the right-hand side, not on the shoulder, but in the confines of the shoulder, the right side of the road. I know there's probably problems with them. I do respect their rights. This is law that's made by the state of Michigan, and we can't change the law, but we can make exceptions here in the county, and I think some of those exceptions have been made in some of our townships. I have an ORV, it's a utility vehicle. I know our farmers use ORV, utility vehicles, John Deere Gators or whatever to, as part of their farming and right to farm and all that. And I support that 110%. I don't think there should ever be any restrictions on them for being able to use ORVs. So that's my comment on ORVs. Other than that, I know Lansing is a disaster, as is the federal government. You know, and I don't think there's no man or woman's life, liberty, or property is safe when this Michigan legislature is in session. You know, I've watched all these bills fly through right along partisan lines here, and most of them are unconstitutional, anti-gun, anti-First Amendment, anti-Fourth Amendment bills that are flying through this legislature, and you can't even keep track of them at the point that they're coming through the legislature anymore. They passed an $81.6 billion budget. The largest budget in the history of the state of Michigan. That's outrageous. And, you know, Senate bills and House bills regarding gun legislation, a lot of these gun legislation, these bills have gone through the House and the Senate. Some of them have been signed by the governor. Some of them are still making their way there. She said that she will sign them. They are unconstitutional. Some of these bills have already been adjudicated through the court system all the way up to the United States Supreme Court and been ruled unconstitutional. Yet the state of Michigan and the Democrats in the legislature over there pass them anyway and just say, look, we know it's unconstitutional. We'll even say it. Well, it gives us 2 years to really kind of screw around with everybody and try to change policy in minds. So, you know, you can look at our history and, you know, from 1911 when Turkey disarmed its citizens, shortly after, 1.5 million Armenians were murdered. You know, this goes all the way down to recently, you know, Venezuela disarmed its citizens. Right now, we can see the results of that. You know, there's examples all along the way here in 1929 when Russia disarmed its citizens. Over the next 24 years, 20 million Russians are murdered. China does the same thing. In 1935 and between 48 and 1952, 20 million Chinese are murdered. You know, when you start to disarm your, you know, the Second Amendment's here for a reason, to protect the First Amendment. I'm 100% behind everything in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. I support it unequivocally. And I just don't like what I'm seeing going on, not only in our Michigan state government legislature, but also in the United States government. We're in troubling times right now, and something's got to change here. And that's really all I have to say. I'm done.
Fellow Michiganders, rejoice, Black Cherry Burners is back out, the official drink of the state of Michigan. And just a small request for the two colonels, if you would be willing after the meeting, be in a picture with the 5 of us board members. I think in a previous life, I was meant to be an interior decorator, as these guys would say with my office, so I'd like a picture with you guys on my wall. I think that would be awesome. As far as things going on in the District 4, Lapeer Days is coming up next month. That'll be a good time. And this will be our last week coming up without football of any kind. Practices start up at the high school level and the college level. So the best time of the year is almost upon us. And probably a good thing that I'm single because I don't know if I'd have any time for it. So with that, Gary, I'll let you follow.
Fair enough.
First, yesterday, several of us were able to go to the Imlay City Eastern Michigan State Fair. They put on a Rotary at Imlay City program, invited the commissioners, Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Hagedon, myself, and of course Commissioner Zender, who's chairman of the fair board. We're all there. Very informative. It's a great event. It draws a lot of people in Lapeer County. They've had misfortune with rain this year. It's made it challenging for everybody. And today, as soon as this is over, I'm headed back to the fair for my third day. Today is the auction for the 4-H kids, where they auction off their livestock. They worked hard on this for a whole year, and looking forward to giving support to that great organization. I'd like to set a little context on the issue we're going to talk about next meeting, this whole grant funding question, because it's a very complicated issue. Granted, we are focused on Homeland Security, one particular grant at the moment, and some language involved. But when we talked about this last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about grants in general. And I think we just need to be sure that we're fiscally responsible when we begin to deal with this. I had our finance director give me some preliminary numbers. Lapeer County received $22 and $23 million in grants over the previous 2 years. Now you think about that, $22 or $23 million. Our general fund budget is $22 million, what we take from our taxpayers. We could literally not afford to operate if we turn down all grants. So I want us to be sure that we approach this on a sophisticated manner, see what we can afford to do. All of us are Republicans, frankly. All of us are conservative. All of us are not fond of the Biden administration. That's just a fact of life. But we got to deal with it, unfortunately, for 2 more years, apparently. And this grant money, in many cases, is essential to the county. And every federal grant has a lot of language attached to it, some of which I agree with, much of which I don't, but it's there on every single grant. And we're playing a certain amount of a shell game if we just say, well, we're not going to take that grant money, but we're going to spend American Rescue Plan money. Well, that's federal money too. And it was sent out because of the COVID situation. And it's got things attached to it too. So you're not being purely philosophical just to say, we're not going to take it out of this batch of grant money, we're going to take it out of that batch of grant money. What I fear is if we approach this with a meat axe, our taxpayers come out on the short end of the stick. Because our taxpayers are not merely funding the county, we are funding the federal government. And we are sending a ton of money to Washington, D.C. And that's our tax money too. So if we say we are not going to use our taxpayers' federal tax money, instead we're only going to use their local tax money, you're going to end up increasing the burden of the local tax situation. So I'm just trying to say all this to kind of set context. So when we have this discussion next meeting, we can think about all the broad ramifications financially and what we ought to or ought not to do. So anyway, appreciate the time to kind of talk about that for a minute. I look forward to a more detailed discussion on all of this next meeting. Thanks.
Bring snacks, our next meeting's gonna be long.
We'll have to break for lunch. All right, thank you. There's no closed session, no need for closed session today.
Motion to
One
adjourn.
more motion. Motion to adjourn.
First and.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Real quick, we can get a picture of it.
Yes.